For the last of my original batch of run ideas for Cyberpunk before I start working on ideas suggested by you lovely folks, I wanted to find out if you can beat Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty as the protagonist of Deus Ex, JC Denton. The short answer is, well, yeah, of course, if you can beat this game with only a single health point on the hardest difficulty, or if you can beat this game without killing anyone, then you can pretty much successfully do any challenge you can think of, and this is just a cool character cosplay / Deus Ex build run, nothing crazy. That said, of all the characters I've done runs for so far, Adam Jensen, David Martinez, and RoboCop, this one just might be my favorite. Maybe it's recency bias, but while JC doesn't have as many options as Adam did, JC's playstyle wasn't as fun as David's, and JC's roleplay wasn't as run-changing as RoboCop's was, I kinda feel like JC had a healthy balance of all three. I had a really tough time in certain places with Adam because all of his options meant my perk points were spread thin, whereas JC had plenty of options, but still focused enough to be better in the options he had. David was more fun, but was really a one-trick pony with a limited weapon pool, whereas JC may not have been as overpowered, but I had way more options while still being pretty dang strong. RoboCop had a lot of great roleplay moments that affected gameplay, my approach to things, and character interactions, but while I felt that to a lesser degree with JC, it was definitely still there, chiefly in my preference to stealth and constantly being reminded of Deus Ex quotes while playing through the game. Alright then, let's get to my outfit, weapons, cyberware, and build, and then the run. So as you can imagine, while the 30-year gap between the OG Deus Ex game and the prequel series saw some changes in fashion, and the real-life 10+ year gap between the game's development saw some design changes, Adam and JC's outfits in Cyberpunk ended up sharing a lot of similarities. Neither character wears anything for the head slot, and both wore polycarbonate sports sunglasses, the durable synthetic biker coat, and a military-grade aramid net running suit. The difference came from their pants and boots. JC's outfit is almost entirely dark blue, though for most things I just settled for black, but his pants have two distinct features in addition to their color: a visible belt and some straps and pads on the hips and knees. The closest I could find to that was the Phantom tough-lined cargo pants, but then I had a problem with Denton's boots. He's got these boots that have, like, shin guards attached to them, and there are really only 2 pairs of shoes in the entire game that look anything like that. And one pair was bright orange, so that was out, so I went with the blue pair, the multi-layer Kaisen Exo Jacks with anti-shrapnel lining. The problem was that different articles of clothing react to each other differently. For example, my cargo pants went over the shin guard things, but normal pants don't do that because the pant leg isn't big enough. For that reason, I decided to just wear the black pants I spawned in with. Alright, for weapons, I spawned in with 3 of the ones I needed. To represent the Deus Ex combat knife, the Punk knife, which I found looked more like the combat knife than any other knife, to represent the 10mm pistol, the Unity handgun, and lastly for now, an electric baton beta, which I initially used in the place of the riot prod, but that's gonna change later in the run. A lot of the build was a bit touch and go in the early days until I got a chance to really feel out what all the weapons looked and functioned like for myself, rather than having to go based on a picture or a wiki description. After that, since I still had quite a bit of cash on me, I went to a Ripper and got some nano-augs installed. In Deus Ex, the amount of augments you can get on a certain part of your body is pretty limited as opposed to what we see from Jensen in the prequels, so while I was able to completely fill up my cyberware by the end of things, I wasn't allowed to equip all of Denton's augs due to some of them sharing the same slot. To start, I got some subdermal armor to be my ballistic protection for my subdermal 1 slot, basic Kuroshi optics because my vision is augmented, and these optics can act as radar transparency for my subdermal 2 slot since the basic optics reduce camera detection speed. I kept my smart link since I'd need that for some guns later. I got the Lynx Paws to act as my run silent aug for my leg slot. I got Dense Marrow to be my combat strength aug for my arm slot, and I grabbed optical camo and a proxa shield to be my cloak and aggressive defense system respectively, filling out my subdermal and cranial slots. The intro with Songbird goes really well, since I snuck past the guards without even using my cloak aug, so I didn't have to deal with the combat encounter you usually have to do later if you get spotted on your way in. After riding to President Meyer's crash site, I used my cloak and my brand new relic upgrade to slip past all the guards at the beginning, and then I used my combat knife and pistol to fight my way through to the AV. After meeting up with President Myers, I used my pistol to clear out all the hostiles in the area, and then I led the president to safety by sneaking past all the Bargus guards and grabbing their ride. We got spotted on the way out, but quickly lost our tails and made it to the Chimera holdout section. This part is usually either extremely difficult or extremely easy, and seems to alternate between the two every time I play the DLC, and since it was extremely difficult in the RoboCop run, if I remember correctly, it makes sense that I was able to successfully survive the onslaught of enemies on my first try. After the Chimera takes everyone out, it turns on us and chases us until we have to fight it in a boss fight. This section is also like the last, and since it was difficult last time, again, I'm able to take the Chimera out on my first attempt using the pistol. I had to check the difficulty afterwards because I couldn't believe I was able to get through either of those sections so easily, let alone both. After that, I get Myers to a semi-secure location, use diplomacy and threats to make new allies, get sworn in as a UNATCO agent, and then UNATCO agent JC Denton is unleashed onto the world. Since I skipped the intro and went straight to Phantom Liberty here, Harold here sells a few uniques that I would have gotten the opportunity to get my hands on earlier on, including one of the most powerful weapons in Deus Ex, the Dragon's Tooth Sword, or in this instance, the Arata Katana. There are no blades even remotely like the Dragon's Tooth Sword in Cyberpunk, but since it's a nanomachine-powered non-eutactic blade, the best I could think of was a glowing katana that also dealt fire damage. Close enough. Now that I've got access to the open worlds of both the base game and the DLC, I can start working on getting the tons of weapons and cyberware that I need to really become JC Denton. The two things inhibiting me the most are a lack of funds to purchase a majority of my weapons and nano-augs, and of course the cyberware tolerance to implant those augs when I get them, so I start going around and doing gigs. First I start with Big in Japan, since Nyx immediately hires me after I go to see Rogue, and I'm able to sneak the Doctor past most of the enemies with no issue, but with no real way past these last couple guys, I bite the bullet and cut them all down with my combat knife. My reward was the Scalpel Katana, which I used to represent the sword in Deus Ex. Originally I wanted to use the Black Unicorn to represent the Dragon's Tooth Sword since it at least glowed blue like the DTS, and I wanted to use the Witcher Sword to represent the sword from Deus Ex since both blades have guards, but while doing my research for the run, I mistakenly thought that you needed to own one of the Witcher games to gain access to these weapons. And since I don't really like The Witcher and don't have any of the games, I thought I'd have to settle for different weapons instead. I'd realize that that's not the case later, but for now I went with the Arata for the DTS and any iconic katana for the sword. Next I did No Easy Way Out for some credits and took out all the scavs guarding Demir's clinic with my combat knife. As you can probably imagine, this was incredibly difficult considering the number of enemies here and how powerful they were, but by sometimes using my combat knife as a throwing knife, and with Aaron's help, we were able to fight our way through to Demir, where Aaron got his jobber chip turned off, and I proceeded to add Angie and her animal goons to the list of scav casualties. After gathering 15 grand for Rogue, I flicked her the creds, and she gave me the info to find Anders Hellman, as well as a contact to help me track him down. After I meet up with Pan Am, we gather some equipment from her camp and ambush the Raffin that stole her package for her deal with the 6th Street Gang. I stealthily take them all out and then we get Pan Am's Thornton back, but then she asks me to assist her in getting revenge on Nash for backstabbing her. Now, I don't know if JC would help Pan Am with a revenge mission, but I still need to help her with this since I need to do her questline to get the Overwatch sniper rifle to act as the Deus Ex sniper rifle. The Deus Ex sniper rifle doesn't come with an inbuilt silencer like Overwatch, but a silencer can be added to it, and since I like Overwatch, I figured I'd just cut out the middleman and nab this. So we ride up on Nash, and I'm actually able to take out all the Raffin and even Nash himself on my first go with my baton and sawed-off shotgun. Yeah, so about the sawed-off, the DB2 Testera is the only sawed-off shotgun in Cyberpunk, but the problem is that it's a double barrel where the shotgun in Deus Ex is a pump shotgun, so I would later replace the Testera with a stockless Tactician I'd picked up, but we'll use the Testera for now.
You're starting to remind me of me, 50 years back.
That makes me one ugly son of a bitch.
After Pan Am and I break into the power station and rig it to overload, the EMP fails to down the Kang Tao AV Hellman's in, but we send it down with a law. Mitch and Scorpion try to help the people who crashed without realizing that they're corpos and everyone but Mitch gets killed, but I arrive on scene to decommission all the Kang Tao operatives with my stun baton and sawed-off shotgun before saving Mitch and finding out that Scorpion didn't make it. He was a good man. What a rotten way to die. We press on to Hellman after clearing the airstrip in our path of Kang Tao until we arrive at a Chu station where Hellman is being kept while the Kang Tao wait for help. I'm able to slip into the station completely undetected and grab Hellman before anyone's the wiser. Alright Hellman, Let's try some word association. First word, relic. After Hellman tells me what I need to know, I head all the way out into the boonies and buy the Blue Fang throwing knife from this melee weapons vendor. This will of course be the throwing knives featured in Deus Ex, and while they don't have any special stunning ability like Blue Fang, I figured why not get a powerful iconic throwing knife? After that, I decided to do a couple of Assault and Progress missions with my sword, my sawed-off shotgun, and my crowbar for some easy credits and experience, and while I was out and about, I found a Budget's Arm vending machine and went ahead and bought a couple of Slotomatics. See, the PS20 in Deus Ex is a single-shot, single-use plasma pistol that fires one single massive energy blast and then is completely useless. Well, there aren't any guns that fire one single massive energy blast in Cyberpunk, but the Slotomatic is a single-use handgun that, once all 36 bullets in the gun are used, it's tossed away, so that's as close as I could get. After that, I grabbed my Dying Knight pistol and a stockless Tactician from Second Amendment. I got the Tactician for obvious reasons, but the Dying Knight I got to try to recreate the Pepper Gun. The Pepper Gun was the hardest weapon to recreate out of the batch. It's a handgun that does no damage, attacks with what is essentially a gas cloud AoE, and it blinds and stuns the targets. I could find many handguns that do one of those things, but none that do all three. The pepper gun doing no damage could have been represented with a PAX mod to make it non-lethal, the gas cloud AoE could have been represented with an explosive handgun or an automatic handgun with a flurry of bullets kind of being like a wave or cloud or whatever, and the apparition handgun blinds targets on headshots, but the apparition isn't explosive or automatic and can't have PAX on it, and PAX doesn't even work on explosive weapons anyways. So while I tried to use Dying Knight to at least get 2 out of the 3, it might not blind, but it could be a non-lethal auto pistol, unfortunately Dying Knight can't have mods attached. Next up was the I Fought the Law gig. At first glance you might think that this was just for credits and experience points, but prior to this recording session, I had a stroke of genius. Or at least what qualifies for genius to me. You might have noticed that I've been referring to my electric baton beta as baton so far, and while that could certainly be chalked up to me referring to it as a truncated version of its name in the game, the keen-eared viewer of my videos will know that I always try to refer to a weapon or item as what it represents in the run, not what it is in the game. When I say baton referring to the electric baton beta, that's because I realized that there was a better fit for the riot prod than the electric baton, and that the electric baton was a better fit for Deus Ex's, well, baton. No. Instead, the perfect fit for the riot prod is the Tinkerbell iconic electric prod, and in order to get my hands on it, I've gotta help River save Randy from Anthony's cattle farm. I investigated the BD, met up with River, tracked down his informant, killed these goobers with my sword, snuck into the Red Queen and got the info we needed without being detected, I reported back to the Paralyses, and after using my accrued credits to install some Self-Ice, or my EMP shield for one of my subdermal slots, and Blood Pump, or my regeneration torso mod, and after upgrading some of my existing nanoware, I wrapped up Aaron's questline. What a shame. And I saved Saul from the Raff and Shiv camp under nearly total stealth, which allows you to actually skip the Raff and Chase section afterwards. Pretty cool. Also, of course, I was awarded Overwatch, so now we have our sniper rifle. After taking out a Cyber Psycho and doing a gig for more money and XP, I decided to start doing Mr. Hands' Dogtown gigs since I'd need to do the Aguilar one to grab the iconic Nova Revolver Mancinella. You might be wondering why I'd need that since Denton doesn't get a revolver in Deus Ex. Well, this was the most scuffed representation, but in light of extenuating circumstances, it was the best I could do. The Mancinella is the mini crossbow. Yeah, see, pre-update 1.6, you used to be able to launch tranq darts out of your projectile launch system, which is quite literally what I needed, a wrist-mounted sleep dart launcher. However, you can't do that anymore. That one hurt. The fact that the perfect thing was in the game and is now gone and completely inaccessible, and the replacement idea is so just not good. I went with Mancinella because it's single shot like a crossbow, revolvers are individual manual reload, kinda like a crossbow, the Mancinella is silenced like how a crossbow would be a silent weapon, and while it doesn't fire tranks, its bullets are poisoned, so it's still a projectile injecting a chemical into the target's body, just not a non-lethal one. I'm sure there's a mod to get tranks back from 1.6 or a way to revert updates or something like that, but that doesn't do me a dang bit of good on Xbox Series X. In any event, after making it to Nika and Anderson with my sawed-off shotgun shotgun. I tried to give her as much rope as possible here, but she just ended up hanging herself with it. When she started beating on the doctor, I stepped in to separate them, but she didn't like that, so I had to take her out. With that done, River gives me a call and we start the hunt for Randy. After we get to the farm, I'm able to shut down all of Anthony's security, nab the riot prod, and save Randy. Done and done. Lickety split. Next, I killed off what felt like 100 scavs with my sawed-off shotgun to get the schematics for Psalm 11:6. You might wonder why I'd pick this up, since it doesn't really fit any of JC's weapons, but the reason why is because it's about as close to a flamethrower as I could get. It's an automatic rifle that sets targets on fire with their bullets, so if I just hipfire and mag dump with it, it's basically just hosing down everyone in my path with fire, so same idea practically speaking. I'd racked up a fair bit more money at this point, so I headed to a nearby Ripper dock and got him to implant some gorilla arms to be part of my combat strength mod along with my dense bone marrow. I got Parabellum to be part of my ballistic protection along with my subdermal armor, and I grabbed some neofiber since my nervous system was looking a little empty. Having made some pretty respectable, pretty significant progress on the JC build, I thought it'd be a good time to continue on with the main quest, so I met up with Reed, we went back to the apartment to meet with President Myers, and now we gotta wait to hear from Agent Reed, so I go back to getting my build done. I grabbed the iconic Posar X Mod 2, an automatic shotgun that'll act as our assault shotgun street sweeper, and then I started doing all of Reggie's gigs because she rewards us with the Axolotl AUG canister for completing all 23 of her gigs, and that mod is going to be our power recirculator. I do the Hippocratic Oath gig and beat all the Stromers with my crowbar before saving the doctor they kidnapped, and I take out all the Tiger Claws at the Revere Courier Services facility with my crowbar and ZHLU 1953 assault rifle, an HJSH Masamune I'd picked up at some point earlier. I thought the Masamune was a good match for the Deus Ex assault rifle because it's an assault rifle made in the 2050s, which is when Deus Ex takes place, and it's a burst rifle like the assault rifle in Deus Ex. The only major difference is continued firing of the ZHLU 1953 results in it basically becoming automatic, which isn't the case with the Masamune. Regardless, with that done, I nabbed the van there to finish the gig, I went to the Ho-Oh Club, dropped a bunch of Tiger Claws with my crowbar, bought a bunch more PS20s, used some PS20s and my throwing knives to enter the club and kill or knock out Jotaro and all of his scummy friends. I clept back Jacob Lamb's eye and got it back to him under total stealth, used my stealth skills, my throwing knives, my cloak AUG, and my run silent AUG to plant a GPS tracker on a Russian vehicle and leave the area undetected, did a couple of suspected organized crime activities, neutralized Taki Kenmochi with the Dragon's Tooth Sword, used my throwing knives and assault rifle to fight my way to Godford and Frederick, acquire their XPD, and then eliminate them, used my throwing knives and assault rifle again to take out the tigers and catch a tiger's toe, uploaded Bad's malware, I warned Anna Hamill about the backstabbers at her throat, I got the Baloperidol from Corporal Hare with no trouble. Well, no trouble for me anyway. I neutralized Blake with my throwing knives, I saved Twangbo, and I fought my way through to Alice's laptop with my assault rifle and took the opportunity to upgrade my nanoware. I went ahead and got a biomonitor because that thing is just a lifesaver, and a visual cortex support for higher crit chance on my sniper rifle, and then I just upgraded a lot of my existing mods. Also, at some point that I can't remember, I got the Keont Warp Dancer Sendevistan. JC can't slow down time or anything. I literally just got this to represent the environmental resistance AUG, and this was the only thing I could find to resist environmental damage. So yeah, I tried to only use it when I got hit with, like, poison grenades or fire grenades or whatever. Well, back to Reggie and her gigs. I diced Jaehyun to bits with the Dragon's Tooth Sword, got some footage to Aaron, got Ro out of the Tiger Claw gym without raising the alarm, found Reggie's buddy Max and escorted him out of his little fort, I got the databank from the Milorian van, and I helped Tiny Mike avoid getting zeroed by Militech. I got the hypercritical from this because I had this whole idea where it was going to be the Law since it fires explosive bullets, and I was only going to be able to fire it once per Colac I got, and I was going to have to scrap a Colac to be able to fire another rocket from the Law since the Law in Deus Ex is single use, but it was all just too overly complicated, so I never ended up actually using it. Well, with Mike safe, I went and pursued an idea for the pepper gun. The Lexington X Mod 2 is an automatic handgun that can have a PAX mod added to it, so while it doesn't blind the target and does damage, it at least doesn't kill mostly and is automatic. I could also add a silencer to it since the pepper gun is a quiet weapon. With the pepper gun kind of achieved, I still had a couple more Reggie gigs to do, so I headed up to Mikhail Akalov's penthouse and grabbed his data shard without being seen. I used my brand new pepper gun to fight my way down to the glitter lab where I hacked their equipment to ruin their drugs. And finally, I had finished all of Reggie's gigs and had been awarded the axolotl, but I actually got even more than I expected. When I went to my apartment to grab my power recirculator, lo and behold, the Witcher sword and the black unicorn, both right there and available for use. With my actual desired Dragon's Tooth sword and sword gotten alongside the power recirculator, I actually decided to start chipping away at the base game main quest. There's an incredibly important weapon for this run, a weapon that, without it, I'd be ashamed to even call this a Deus Ex run, and it's locked behind the main quest to the base game, so you guys get a 2-in-1. I'll be beating the main game and then Phantom Liberty as well, all in this one video. After speaking with Oda and then getting the parade data shard from Wakako, I switch back to Phantom Liberty while I wait for Takamura to call me. I go back to Dogtown, and though I can't get the axolotl installed yet, I can upgrade some of my current nanoware, and then Agent Reed and I meet with Agent Xenakis. She lets us know that there's a netrunner named Slider who can help us find Songbird, so Agent Reed and I track him down. I try to sneak through the base, but I unfortunately get caught and have to take down as many voodoo boys as I can with the pepper gun while destroying the server with my sniper rifle.
Alright, Slider. Show's over. You might as well do what we say. If I'm gonna kill you, you're already dead.
Well, after Slider's unfortunate accident, I use my pepper gun and cloak to escape, though they get a couple of shots off on Agent Reed before we're free and clear, and unfortunately they end up knocking his head off. For my next assignment, I've got to do some gigs for Mr. Hands so that he'll help me break into the Black Sapphire so that I can, in turn, meet up with Songbird. So I use my pepper gun to fight my way through the VDBs for treating symptoms. Then I use my sword to fight the Robot R Mark II boss, and the thing absolutely shreds through the boss. And finally, I spare Milkel Alexi for the greater good, completing my second of 3 gigs for Hands. For the last gig, I did Waiting for Dodger. I snuck my way through Dodger Space down to Bill and Charles, non-lethally dispatched everyone as I went, and explained the situation to Dodger, who let us all go free. With that, I finally got another Deus Ex weapon, the Silent Pistol, in the form of Her Majesty, of course. JC references a fever dream. Then I swim through the underwater section to get into the Black Sapphire, take out all the warehouse guards non-lethally, and do the entire sniper section without Agent Reed getting caught for the first time ever. The rest of the mission is done just by talking to Songbird, gambling, and meeting with Hansen before leaving. Hansen steals my line about body bags and tries to intimidate me.
But while mechs like him might have copper wiring to reroute their fear of pain, I've got nerves of steel.
Something cool to note here, because I took out all the guards earlier non-lethally, and maybe also because I did the entire sniper section stealthily, none of the guards tried to attack me as I was leaving, and Agent Reed wasn't beaten up, so again, cool changes I've not seen before. Taking a break from Phantom Liberty as not to shotgun the whole thing, I meet up with Takamura and send him to recon the Arasaka float building solo. After that, I headed over to Judy's to find Evelyn Parker dead, kicking off that whole questline that I'll start and do lots of for XP and credits, but never actually finish. While I was in Night City, I also decided to help the Paralyses with their investigation since, like I think I said for the Adam Jensen run, this gig is one of the more Deus Ex coded missions in the game. After running down the surveillance van, I took out all the scavs with my riot prod and sniper rifle, and then I told Elizabeth about the brainwashing. I considered not telling Jefferson for his safety, but JC is committed to the truth, skeptical of manipulation, and has a tendency to reject secrecy when it enables oppression, so I didn't think hiding the mind control would be very in character, even if it puts Jefferson in danger. The protective lie would be no different than letting the Illuminati or Majestic 12 control the world from behind the scenes for the good of everyone, which is a load of crap. I also decided to help Pan Am and the Vet steal a Basilisk since I was already grinding gigs for XP to get the Renaissance Punk and Edge Runner perks for as much nanoware as possible. After taking out all the guards with the riot prod and escorting the Basilisk to the camp, I also went ahead and finished up River's questline, got the Daemon for Nyx for the Spellbound gig, and also met with Frank for the War Pigs gig. He tried to lure me into an ambush as a last-ditch attempt to save his career at Arasaka, but I talk him down from the idea. He gets super depressed about his life being ruined, so I suggest that
maybe you should try getting a job.
Problem solved. I also chauffeur for Ozob and take out his assailants with the riot prod, get my reward from Alan for letting Milko live, and I did the shot by both sides gig since that's also very Deus Ex-like with mystery and intrigue. Between Dante and Bree, I decided to side with Bree as, even though she might be a sellout, JC is definitely anti-corporation, pro-free press, and practical. JC knows that you've got to do certain unscrupulous things to survive in this world. Dante? Well, he's a good man working for a bad system. That makes him dangerous. In any event, with Takamura having gotten back to me and finished his recon, I infiltrated Arasaka Industrial Park and hacked the float with little to no resistance. After making my escape, I also quickly started and finished this Linda Melinda gig.
Either your life is worth more than letting this guy out, or it's not worth living.
Then I made plans with Agent Reed and Xenakis to infiltrate Hansen's stadium base as the Cassell twins to save Songbird, and after having a chat with Songbird about how she's just a really well-meaning treacherous backstabber, I take the opportunity of this pseudo point of no return to head back to the main story with Takamura. After neutralizing the first, second, and third snipers with my assault shotgun and my silent pistol, it was time for the Oda boss fight. For this fight, I give Oda the due honor and respect of fighting him with the Dragon's Tooth sword, and it was an absolute bloodbath. I cut him down to nearly 50% by the first time he even tries to run and heal, and though there's a close call towards the end, he goes down pretty much in a matter of minutes overall. I consider sending Oda back to Arasaka in a body bag, but decide against it for Goro's sake. After Takemura kidnaps Hanako, I meet up with them, we get ambushed, I go back for Takemura after we get separated, I hose down all the Arasaka agents in the building with my flamethrower, and we both escape. Hanako sends a proxy to let me know that she's open to helping me, but I'm not one to work with people like the Illuminati or MJ-12. Now we've gotten to the point that we're basically at the point of no return for both the main game and Phantom Liberty, so I go out and try to finish up my leveling and nanoware implants by doing Cyber Psycho missions and random gigs, including this Cyber Psycho fight where the boss just randomly spawned nearby and stayed still while I domed her with the silent pistol, bugging the quest out until I leave and come back much later. I also take the opportunity to upgrade all of my nanoware to tier 5, and did some more gigs for hands like saving the kids at Talon Academy and fighting my way out, fighting Yasha Ivanov in one of the hardest fights of the run because he just kept walking me down and one-shotting me with his shotgun in phase 2 of the boss fight, eventually defeating that piece of human garbage, defeating Boris Rybakov in an admittedly awesome sniper battle, helping a Brazilian special agent expose the Brazilian government, and taking out all the scavs in the scrapper with my crowbar, silent pistol, and sniper rifle to rescue Hassan. With pretty much all of Hans' gigs done and simply waiting for the call to do the Aguilar mission, I go ahead and finish Panam's questline as well. I take out all the Raffen with the Basilisk, and that's that. With pretty much every ending available, I had to start considering which main game ending I was going for. After considering each, ironically enough, I decided that JC would go for the only ending I hadn't unlocked yet, the Rogue ending, so I headed to the Afterlife to start chipping in. I figured that there's no way JC sides with Arasaka, since they're basically the Illuminati. JC would have apprehensions about involving the Nomads, since they seem like decent, honest people. And while a solo run would certainly be heroic and keep innocents out of harm's way, it's short-lived and the fallout is unpredictable. At best, Arasaka just reconsolidates their power, and I change nothing, just like what happened with Johnny. At worst, I end up causing a mass casualty event that harms hundreds of innocent lives, also like Johnny. No. I need a team of professionals that specialize in surgical dismantling of power structures with minimal collateral damage, and Rogue and Squama hit that to a T. In addition, Rogue has worked with Smasher in the past, so she might have insider insight and at the very least has an axe to grind because of their personal history. Well, after meeting with Rogue, and also beating the crap out of Woodman, the last thing I really do for the Judy questline aside from meeting up with everyone at her apartment, I knock out a couple more easy gigs and then finish installing all of the rest of my nanoware. I'm able to install my power recirculator, I swap my radar transparency for the Oracle optics, which act as the visual enhancement and targeting augs in my eye slots, I swap Parabellum for the iconic Rara Avis, I also slap on some bionic joints for stronger ballistic protection, I nab the deep field interface to fill up my nervous system augs, and I grab Heal on Kill to do the same for my circulatory system. Being completely nanoware save for my frontal cortex at this point, my build was basically complete save for the Mancinella from the Aguilar gig that I was waiting on, and that last very special gun. Rogue and I went to the Ebunique, snuck through the shipyard, and beat Grayson, getting Johnny's old iron, his old ride, and unlocking the final mission before we do the last quest of the main game, a drive-in date with Rogue. With that done, I meet with Hanako, consider but ultimately reject her offer, and decide to give Johnny control in order to team up with Rogue and Waylon to take on Arasaka together. alt downs an entire satellite, not sure about the collateral there. But then we crash land in Arasaka, and Rogue and I stealthily take down all the agents sent looking for us until we're able to rescue Wayland. With the band back together, we fight our way down past all the Arasaka agents in the tower to the bottom floor and get ult into the system, at which point she basically melts everyone and everything in there, save for one man. One more obstacle in our way. One more hurdle to overcome. Gunther Herman. This fight took a couple of tries, and while there were some awesome moments and some crushing defeats, I gotta say I had a blast. I tried a couple of different approaches here. Like first, I tried to beat him with only Slotomatics, but for some reason they were all empty, though I was told that dropping them and picking them back up would fix the problem, so
I have to drop something. Heh. Hold on.
The fight actually went pretty well at first, but considering the work of swapping my gun out every 30 seconds like 20 times, when he killed me and I'd only gotten him down to 73%, that idea immediately got binned. Next I went with a tier 3 crowbar and actually got him to 50% health using this loop where I'd beat him, he'd try to machine gun me, I'd walk around this corner, and rinse and repeat. Unfortunately, when he called out his ads, I tried to stealth and take them out with my pistol, and while I hid successfully, Smasher just nuked the entire arena and I got killed. Fortunately for me though,
Bravery is not a function of firepower.
so I went back in with the sword and dropped him down to 50%. Then I swapped to my pistol and stayed mobile, allowing me to take out his goons. With all the snipers and heavies dealt with, I laid on the pressure with my pistol and got Adam down to about 30%, but in my most heartbreaking moment of this run, when I tried to dash to the right of Adam's rocket attack, the game instead dashed me right into his gun arm and he killed me in a single shot.
What a rotten way to die.
Now I was done playing games. I went in with the Dragon's Tooth sword and melted Adam, destroyed his little goobers that he summons with the silent pistol, and then, somehow, I received a blessing straight from God himself. Adam got stuck in midair and couldn't move or attack, so I just obliterated him with the silent pistol. His transition to the next phase got him free, but by that point, he was just assault rifle bait, and I mowed him down while running circles around him. To finish him off, I used the most powerful weapon I have against Smasher, his Arasaka kill phrase.
The Putin machine.
With the main game beaten, I keep my body and rob a space casino, and then I grab that very special weapon before going back to Phantom Liberty. Alex and I go undercover, meet with Hansen, and then I decide to betray Agent Reed and go with Songbird. Somi is an individual trying to escape the machine, Saul is a part of the system and wants to enforce obedience regardless of justification, and JC has shown time and time again throughout Deus Ex to be a champion of autonomy, a believer in truth, and an enemy of governments and centralized powers that try to control people. Reed is a tool of the state like JC used to be in UNATCO, and while JC doesn't trust Somi, he believes in her right to decide her own fate and has worked with rebels like Nicolette Duclair and the Silhouette movement before. Somi and I sneak through the stadium, taking out everyone in the way with her hacking skills and my pepper gun. I started the Heaviest of Hearts gig after escaping the stadium, snuck to the DA undetected, and made DA Zembinski wipe Maldonado's testimony since it was a good end to justify crooked means situation. I went to Judy's place and fought Tom, helped Terrorist with a Heart of Gold Melee in the Road to Redemption gig where I dropped a couple dozen Barghest agents with my baton, my pepper gun, and my sawed-off shotgun, and saved Nele from being wrongfully detained. And then finally, after a bit of messing around, I finally got the call from Mr. Hands. It was go time. Finally time to do the Aguilar mission and get Mancinella, our mini crossbow. After meeting with Iago, roughing up Bennett with the mini crossbow, and attending Hansen's funeral where Barghest domes Iago, with nothing left to do for the build and nothing stopping me from doing the final mission, it was finally time to finish the run. Somi and I make it to the spaceport, I sneak past everyone, and I silently and cleanly drop anyone in my way with the mini crossbow like this is the Liberty Island level and I spect into stealth, or at least I do in places that the game affords, as most parts of this level are now just an all-out war. At last, I finally arrive at the train station, but the mini crossbow just isn't strong enough to take on these dozens of high-level, super powerful NUSA agents, so it looks like I'll finally have to bust out the most iconic weapon in Deus Ex.
Give me the Gep gun.
This gun was every bit as awesome as the Gep gun, man. A lock-on rocket launcher that does like a bajillion damage. With this absolute beast, I was able to hold out long enough for Somi to call our getaway train. Somi then reveals she betrayed me and lied about the cure. Shocker, the lying liar lied. But then I was conflicted as to whether I'd side with her or Reed in the end. Ultimately, being that UNATCO and Tracer Tong and Everett and Daedalus and pretty much everyone JC has ever even spoken to has lied to him, I figured he'd just take this one on the chin. Reed is still trying to maintain the status quo, and Songbird just wants her freedom. Nothing there has changed.
Stop where you are or die.
Make me.
Reed gives me the ultimatum of give him Songbird or die, but it's clear that JC wouldn't give on this. The NUSA experimented on Songbird and are now trying to erase her, and that's where Reed's loyalties lie. His orders don't justify his actions, and since there isn't a way to talk him down or non-lethally stop him, we gotta take him out.
You got 3 seconds. 1.
Funny, it's usually JC that's the one counting down. Sorry, Reed, you were loyal, but loyalty to a tyrant is treason against the truth. Well, since I'm technically still an FIA agent and Reed's out of the picture, I guess that makes Myers my new boss.
She can consider that my resignation. I don't have time to write a letter.
With that, I loaded Songbird onto the shuttle, took Reed's Pariah handgun as a retirement gift, watched the shuttle take off, and I beat Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty as JC Denton. Here's my build for the run, all my clothes and weapons and cyberware and perks. Like I said, this run was really awesome, and I think it really gave Deus Ex due respect. My favorite part of the run was honestly probably the fact that, with Cloak and the Relic perk, using Cloak mid-fight would allow me to save whenever I wanted. In any case, that brings my original batch of character run ideas to an end, so now I'll be scouring through my comment sections for more ideas. You guys have already given me some awesome ones, like the Terminator, Rex Colt from Far Cry, Judge Dredd, Frank Horrigan from Fallout 2, Matoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell, and of course other Cyberpunk characters as well, and with a brand new season of Edge Runners coming soon, expect to see a lot more of that angle as well. Alright? Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe to support the channel and my Cyberpunk content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.